Well, good morning and welcome to Dad Mode, God, Grit, and Goals. I'm your host, Mike Tobias, and today we're going to be diving into the third part of the family compass, home turf. So if you've been following this series, you know we started by defining a family compass, which were the true north, the ultimate purpose and vision for your family. Then we talked about key vectors, those guiding principles or qualities that keep us moving in that direction. And together, these elements form a strong foundation for leading our families with intention, helping us stay grounded in our core values. Today, we're going to be focusing on what I'm calling home turf. Now, this concept is more than just physical safety. Think of home turf as the atmosphere that you're creating in your home, one that nurtures emotional, mental, and spiritual growth. It's where we establish a sense of security, not just by locking your doors, but by making each person feel seen, valued, and connected. This is the place where, as parents, we protect our family from the negative influences and create a space for the good things to take root and flourish. So I think of Proverbs 22:6 when I think about the home turf. It says, "Train up a child in the way he should go, and when he is old, he will not depart from it." So our home turf is where that training begins. It's the soil where we plant seeds of faith, character, and resilience. And like any garden, our care for it needs to adapt over time. So as your children grow, so are their needs, and so should your approach. So today's episode is all about understanding those age-appropriate needs. I'm going to walk you through different stages from infancy all the way to late adolescence. And each stage, I'm going to share some insights from psychology, brain science, and just my own experience where I've made all the mistakes, by the way. Sorry, kids. In a hope to help you understand the specific needs of those age groups, as well as practical ways you can meet those needs in your home. It's all about creating a home turf that grows with your family, providing stability while nurturing each child's unique development, and they are all different. So whether you're raising toddlers or teenagers, I hope you'll find some helpful ideas here today and create a home that truly reflects your family's values and supports every member along the way. So let's dive in, and let's start with the little ones, the infants and the toddlers. Those precious years from birth up to about 2 years old. So this stage is all about laying a strong foundation of security and trust. Think of it like planting seeds in good soil. If we nurture our children well in these early years, we're setting them up with roots that are going to help them grow securely as they move through life. And at this age, the most important goal is to create a sense of safety and attachment so your child feels loved, seen, and cared for. So let me just talk about a few key development goals. At this stage, infants and toddlers need consistent, nurturing care. They rely on us for everything. And through that dependence, they start to learn about trust and security. So by simply showing up day after day, feeding them, rocking them, helping them get to sleep, taking and talking to them gently, making eye contact, we're showing them you are safe, you are loved. And these early years are also about supporting their emotional and social development, although social isn't as important during this time as it will be later. Every time you respond to their cries, smile at them, offer a calming touch. I know life gets crazy sometimes, and that's hard to do because we've got our own issues. But you want to help them feel connected and valued. We're also teaching them the basics of emotional regulation. They are learning bit by bit that the world is a safe place because the people they rely on are consistent and responsive. So let me just give you a couple of insights that I've learned of late in psychology and brain science. So brain science backs this up. In infancy, a child's brain is focused on forming secure attachments, which are foundational for emotional stability in relationships down the line. Physical touch, eye contact, and responsive care aren't just nice to haves. They're actually essential, and there's some pretty amazing studies on this. When you hold your baby close, look into their eyes, respond to their cries. You're helping them build those early connections in the brain that lead to secure attachment. This kind of connection is what sets up their sense of trust, not just in you as their parent, but in a world as a whole. They learn when I need something, someone is there for me. And that's a powerful lesson that will serve them the rest of their lives. So what does it look like practically? Well, here's a few ways you can create a safe, nurturing home turf for an infant or a toddler. So number one, I'm going to walk you through just 3 of these quick. Establish predictable routines. Babies and toddlers feel secure when they know what to expect. Keep routines simple but consistent. Regular feeding times, nap times, play times. These are predictable. I have a hard time saying predictable. They're predictable moments that create stability in their world. Certainly offer plenty of physical affection and engagement. Physical touch, eye contact, gentle words are some of the most powerful ways to bond with your child. Hold them, rock them, sing to them, even if you have a horrible voice like me, and let them feel your presence. This level of engagement encourages bonding and helps them feel loved and valued. You want to create a calming, predictable environment. For the youngest ones, you do want to limit overstimulation. So avoiding loud noises, bright flashing lights, busy environments when possible. Instead, focus on creating a calm, consistent atmosphere. Soft music, gentle tones, simple toys. They create a safe space where they can feel at ease. And I'm going to talk about defiance. So those of you with a toddler who's starting to show some independence, let's talk about handling defiance and doing that in a loving way. I didn't always do well at this because I didn't understand where they were in their brain development. Once again, sorry, kids. I think this is going to be an episode of Sorry, Kids for me. You may be dealing with stuff like them throwing food on the floor, a little one who can't sleep without holding your hand, or a strong reaction to the word no. These behaviors are common in toddlers as they explore their boundaries and independence. Though they can be challenging, there are gentle and practical ways to respond. So let's just talk about food throwing for a minute. Throwing food can be a way of exploring cause and effect. And instead of reacting with frustration, you want to try to stay calm and keep your response consistent. Now, kids, I think in a lot of ways, parents talk too much because kids don't have the brain to be able to fully understand, deep thinking. But just keep it simple. Food stays on the table. And if they're continuing to do this, then we just remove them. Offer a simple choice. Do you want to eat your carrots or your chicken? This gives them a sense of control within the boundaries that you're setting. But if it continues, then you just remove them from the situation. It's like, guess we're all done. Throwing the food on the floor means you're all done. You're teaching them. That's how you're interpreting that signal. So remember, you are training them, but they are also training you. I think this is one of the key things and why consistency is so important. They're trying to get a reaction out of you. They're looking for the boundary. And if your reaction is not what they want, they're just seeing what it is. That's the thing. They're just exploring. And they think it's funny when you get mad. They're not scared of you being mad until you do something really scary, which would fly in the face of staying calm. So that's why it's important to stay calm. If your toddler needs a little extra comfort at night, it's funny how kids act different with their parents than they do with a babysitter. And it's because you as a parent have trained them a certain way. So if you're one who has to sleep with your kids because they won't go to sleep otherwise, and yet they will sleep when the babysitter's there, well, you have to think about, why is that? Well, it's because they've actually trained you. So you want to work on gradually weaning them off of the hand-holding. For instance, start by sitting close to their bed and then gradually moving further away each night. This shows them they're safe without constant physical contact and builds their confidence in sleeping independently. The third thing is just handling no. Toddlers love to test boundaries, especially when it comes to the word no. Instead of saying, for example, no running inside, try saying, let's walk with our feet on the ground. Redirecting with positive language helps them understand what they can do. And when they follow the guidance, be sure to praise them. Thank you for walking. You're doing such a great job listening. This positive reinforcement encourages the behaviors you want to see. So these are small adjustments, but they make a huge difference. They help your toddler feel understood while teaching them the boundaries they need to grow confidently and securely. So every time you respond calmly and consistently, you're strengthening that home turf, creating a safe and loving environment that they can rely on. So let's move on to early childhood and talk about encouraging independence and social skills. It's really important. I can't overemphasize the importance of the ages between 3 to 5 years old on social skills. Jordan Peterson has a lot to say about this because if it's not done, not to freak you out, but this is how kids end up in jail. So they're starting to develop a real sense of self and independence, and they're learning how to interact with others. So before the age of 3, your kids aren't playing with anyone, really. You might have play dates with your kids, but they're just interacting with themselves on their own. They're not really learning to share or do those kinds of things. It's an exciting time, but it's also a period when clear boundaries and secure home environment become especially important. So let's hit some key developmental goals. In these years, one of our main goals as parents is to encourage independence in a way that builds confidence. Kids at this age are eager to do things on their own, and that's great instinct to nurture. Giving them small, manageable tasks they can handle helps them feel capable and proud of themselves. So this is an age when we were teaching our kids to learn how to clean up after themselves. We can't do the next thing until we take care of this thing. And you want those are small, manageable tasks. We're introducing the basics of social and emotional skills, learning how to share, how to cooperate, how to show empathy. It's a great time to start setting simple family rules and boundaries. These boundaries help kids feel safe because they know what's expected. And they give them a secure framework to explore their independence. I think a lot of parents want to be friends with their kids. And you love your kids, all of that, but that comes much, much later. Right now, you are security. You are loving. You show love, but you are also the law. Like, these are the rules. And it's safe within the rules. And outside of the rules, it's not safe. That's actually what you want to teach your kids. You will consistently say that and think that as they grow old. It's safe within the rules. It's not safe outside of the rules. So let's hit the psychology and brain science of that. From a brain development perspective, this is when kids' social and emotional awareness is really starting to take off. They're learning not only to express their own feelings, but also recognizing that others have emotions. So they're figuring out what it means to feel happy, to be sad or frustrated. And they're starting to understand that others feel these things too. So clear, consistent boundaries are especially valuable at this stage. Having predictable rules and expectations doesn't just make things easier for us as parents, it helps kids learn self-regulation. So let me give you a really quick example, because you need to think like a referee at this age. So a referee in a sports game, they just throw the flag. Like you're out of bounds, you throw the flag. If you keep moving the boundary, imagine how frustrating it would be to be playing a soccer game and kids are going out of bounds, but the referee's not throwing the flag. Or somebody kicks a goal, but it's not a goal anymore. Like, this is what confuses our children, the inconsistency. So this is what I mean by setting the rules. The rules of the game create the comfort. You're not being a horrible person if you have strict rules. You're actually creating the rules of the game. And you can't win a game when you don't understand the rules. Hopefully that makes sense. So you want to help them develop those early skills in self-control and emotional awareness, which are going to serve them as they grow. And if they don't know what the rules are, they're going to be emotionally all over the place, and so there's no way to regulate it. Once they know, oh, this happens every time, then it's no longer emotional. I'll go back to sports. When the referee throws the flag and your foot is out of bounds, like it's out of bounds. You can argue, but we can go back and look at the tape, and it's like, yep, it was. And on those rare occasions, the referee will make a mistake. But it's different than like judging, judging gymnastics. I think about that. It's like there's some subjectivity to that. So you want to keep your rules as unsubjective as possible. Like in our house, this is what we do. This is acceptable. This is not acceptable. Just making that really clear. And be on the same page as your spouse. So how do we create a home turf that supports these goals for our young children? So you want to encourage age-appropriate responsibilities. Remember, we're trying to create responsible adults, and it happens at a very young age. So kids at this young age love to feel helpful. So give them some small responsibilities that they can manage. It's your job. We're gonna feed the fish. It's time to feed the fish. We're gonna feed the dog. We're gonna take them out for a walk. Put their toys away after playing, or help set the table for dinner. Simple tasks like these give them a sense of independence and pride in contributing to the family. Back to the boundaries. When setting boundaries, explain them in simple terms they can understand. For example, instead of saying, don't jump on the couch, you could say, the couch is for sitting. We're going to save our jumping for outside. This way they understand the reason behind the rule and feel guided rather than restricted. And modeling emotional regulation and teaching feeling words. Young children are just starting to figure out how to manage their emotions. So you can help them by modeling calm responses, even in moments of frustration. If they're upset, try saying, I see you're feeling frustrated. Let's take a deep breath together. That's it. Good job. Teaching them words for feelings like happy, sad, frustrated. It gives them the tools to express themselves rather than acting out. So sometimes it's just language. At this age, let's talk about a few challenges. So let me just walk you through 4 common challenges at this age. Tantrums and big emotions. Big feelings. They lead to big reactions, like tantrums, which can be tough for any parent. Kids are still learning how to manage emotions, and sometimes those feelings are overwhelming. So when a tantrum happens, try to stay calm and give them the space to express their feelings. And I remember we had one of our kids, man, he would go into tantrums. And, when they were home, it was okay. But when you're in the grocery store, you're like, oh, no, what are we going to do? Realize the grocery store is filled with other parents. So it's like, we would just let him go. It's like, are you Are you done yet? And you might say, I see you're upset. It's okay to feel that way, but let's use our words. Take a few deep breaths. This lets them know their emotions are okay, but you're guiding them toward a calmer response. So your modeling calm behavior can be incredibly powerful. They're watching how we handle big feelings too. And I'm back to the grocery store. Like, if you're embarrassed, you're giving them those emotional responses. But if you're calm and you're just sitting there watching them, it's like, are you through yet? They will get control of themselves. Challenge 2, saying no and testing boundaries. So children at this stage are starting to explore their independence, and that often means testing the limits. They're always testing you. They may start saying no more often or refuse to do things that they thought were okay with before, or we were okay with before, like pick up the toys or following simple directions. So yes, you want to give choices when possible to help them feel a sense of control, but you want to make sure that they're choices that are acceptable to you. Man, I screwed this up so many times. I'll share that a little bit later. But when you give choices that one of the choices is acceptable to you and one is not, but you're just so frustrated. It's like, if you don't do this, then we're going to leave. And you're like, but we just got to Disney World. And now I got to leave because you want to be consistent. So here's some examples. Pick up your toys. You could say that. Or you could say, hey, would you like to pick up the blocks first or the cars? So give them a choice within limits, gives them some autonomy while still getting the job done. And remember to be consistent with those boundaries. Even if they push back, knowing what's expected actually helps them feel secure. Next challenge is difficulty sharing or taking turns. So this can be tough for young children, especially that they're just starting to understand the concept of others' needs and feelings. It's normal for them to feel possessive of their toys or attention. So when sharing becomes an issue, try to show them empathy and encourage patience. You could say, hey, I know you want to play with this toy right now. Let's set a timer for 2 minutes, and then it will be your turn. This teaches them that their needs are recognized while also helping them learn patience. Positive reinforcement's super key here. So if they do share, make sure you acknowledge it with something like, thank you for taking turns. That was kind. And finally, bedtime resistance. Some children in this age range begin to test boundaries around bedtime. Finding every excuse to stay up a little later or needing extra reassurance before they can settle in. This is a classic. One more story. I'm thirsty. Get daddy. So these are all delay tactics. You know it, and you're like, I'm going to fall for it again. So establishing a consistent bedtime routine can work wonders. A routine might include a bath, a story, a prayer, reflection time, a hug, good night. Kids feel reassured when they know what's coming next. And if they start resisting bedtime, remind them the routine and keep it calm and consistent. Let them know you're nearby, and if needed, try sitting in their room for a few minutes as they fall asleep, gradually easing this back over time. This stage is such a wonderful time to build connection and trust while guiding them towards independence. By setting gentle boundaries, giving them small responsibilities, and teaching them about feelings, we're creating a safe and nurturing home turf where they can grow with confidence and kindness. All right, let's move on and talk about middle childhood, these years between 6 and 12. I love these years. It's such a formative stage where kids are not only growing in responsibility, but also starting to engage more with the world around them and developing stronger social skills. It's an age of curiosity. It's an age of exploration and sometimes testing limits. So the key developmental goals at this stage, one of your main goals as a parent is to help children build a sense of responsibility and independence within a supportive structure. They're ready for more meaningful tasks and challenges, and they're capable of handling more complex rules. This is also a great time to reinforce core family values. So those ones that we wrote down earlier, like honesty, respect, kindness, guiding them as they start encountering different situations and influences outside the home. Socially, they're learning to navigate their friendships and group dynamics, exploring who they are not only within the family, but also in their relationships outside it. It's a time when they're figuring out what it means to be a friend, how to handle conflicts, and how to be kind and respectful even when things get challenging. So from a developmental standpoint, kids at this age are becoming more self-aware, and they're developing important cognitive skills. They're learning to reason. They're making decisions. They're solving problems, which means they're more capable of understanding rules and consequences. They're also working on self-regulation or learning to control impulses and manage their emotions. And this is essential for healthy social interactions. Clear boundaries and consistent expectations are crucial at this stage. They provide the structure kids need to feel secure. But they also give kids a sense of responsibility for their actions. By guiding them with consistent boundaries, we're helping them develop self-discipline. And I think as important, resilience. Skills that are going to serve them well as they continue to grow. Now, in middle childhood, we're also going to start to see some natural differences between boys and girls, especially how they approach social interactions and challenges. So girls focus on close one-on-one friendships, and these are generalizations, but they're pretty accurate. One-on-one friendships. They're going to be more verbal in expressing emotions and discussing social situations. Boys, on the other hand, tend to enjoy larger activity-based groups, and they may express themselves more physically, working through emotions, but staying active. So it can help to keep these differences in mind when guiding our children. For example, with girls, it can be helpful to encourage open conversations and problem solving in friendships, while boys may benefit more from opportunities for active expression like playing catch or taking a walk together. It's also common for boys to be drawn to physical challenges, so creating safe ways for them to test their limits can be helpful. With girls, we might focus more on reinforcing self-worth and resilience, especially as social comparisons begin to emerge. And as you get into the teen years, you can see how this plays out, because girls have clubs and cliques and friend groups, and they don't beat each other up. Boys beat each other up. Girls use exclusivity as a way to beat one up. You're not going to be invited to our party. You are not part of our group. You're not welcome here. That's how they beat each other up. They use exclusionary tactics. So how can we create a home turf that fosters responsibility, self-confidence, and strong social skills? So here's a few practical ideas. Age-appropriate responsibilities. Kids in this age group are ready for more meaningful tasks. So you're constantly ramping up the responsibility curve as your kids get older. This might include helping with meal prep, cleaning up after dinner, taking care of a pet. When they have real age-appropriate jobs, it builds their confidence and sense of purpose within the family. Positive reinforcement and natural consequences. Reinforcing good behaviors by recognizing and praising their efforts, but also allowing for natural consequences. For example, they learn from forgetting their homework. It's not about punishing them. It's about helping them connect actions with outcomes. Like for us, if you forgot your lunch, it was, well, shoot. I know this is horrible. My wife and I were on different pages on this, but it's like they won't forget a second day. If they forgot it yesterday, they'll remember it the next day. But if you go deliver it to them, then they just have a delivery service now. So those are natural consequences. I'm a big believer in natural consequences. You don't have to be the consequence. As your kids get older, they're going to suffer their own consequences. What happens is that mama bear steps in, and daddy bear can do this sometimes as well, but step in to save them from the consequence. It's like, no, let the consequence be the consequence. I'm so sorry that happened. I'm on your side. You want to be on their side, but don't eliminate the consequence. And number 3, encourage open conversations about social situations. This is super important because if your kids aren't talking to you about what's going on socially in their life and you're not asking, then you don't know a thing about the most important thing to them. Middle childhood brings new challenges and friendships. So you have to encourage you to create a safe space for your kids to talk about what they're experiencing, whether it's about friendships or conflicts or something they've seen at school. These conversations let them process and learn from their social experiences. It also helps reinforce family values in the context of real life situations. And again, I learned a really important lesson here. I would ask, this is especially true of one of my daughters. I'm like, would you like my thoughts on that? And she would say, no. I was like, dang it. Okay, well, I had to honor that instead of just throwing up all over her my thoughts because I'm a problem solver. And she didn't want to hear that. She just wanted to know that I knew what was going on. And actually, that is the goal. Now, when they ask for help, absolutely help. But I learned to encourage them to solve their own. Well, what would you do about it? What do you think you should do? And I would even throw in horrible ideas just to see, like, well, why don't you just hit him? My wife would look at me like, what are you talking about? I want to know her thoughts about why she wouldn't just hit somebody. Because that tells you about her values. It tells you that she has learned, like, hitting's not an appropriate way to respond. I actually want to hear her say that. So I'm not giving her ideas. She's already thought this through. I'm actually helping her bring to consciousness that which she subconsciously already knows. And that's a good thing. So let's just walk through a few typical challenges and some practical advice. Here's a big one: procrastination and avoidance. So kids at this age start to procrastinate or avoid tasks, especially when something feels too challenging or too boring. So what do you do as a parent? Well, I think the advice is you want to help them break tasks into smaller steps and encourage them to focus on completing one thing at a time. Sometimes simply starting is the hardest part. Use encouragement, and if needed, work alongside them for the first few minutes. Show them that effort matters more than perfection, and help them see that finishing tasks brings a sense of accomplishment. One thing I learned about procrastination in my own self is if I was procrastinating something, I would have to figure out why am I procrastinating this? Because that's actually a signal. It's a signal to something else. I'm avoiding this for a reason. And what is that reason? Is it because it's too hard? Is it because I don't care? Is it because I don't know the value of it? I don't want to do it. Like, getting underneath that's a very interesting thing. Developing peer relationships and handling conflict. So at this age, you want your kids to have friends, but not just any friend, the right friends. And friendships become more complex. And with that comes occasional conflict. So kids in this stage are still learning how to navigate disagreements and differences. So teach them that healthy friendships involve respect and empathy and open communication. Encourage them to see things from the other person's perspective and to express their feelings calmly. And if they encounter conflict, guide them how to address it with kindness, reinforcing that it's okay to have boundaries and that real friends respect those boundaries. The third challenge, I Think about this as managing expectations and frustrations with the boundaries. So kids are becoming more aware of the rules, and they might sometimes push against that stupid rule, especially if they feel something's unfair. That's not fair. That's not right. So be consistent and transparent with the rules, explaining the why behind each one. When they understand the reason behind a boundary, they're more likely to respect it. You can say, we turn off screens after dinner or before dinner because it's important to connect as a family. Or you need to finish your homework before going outside because learning is a priority. Clear explanation goes a long way in fostering respect for rules. And then finally, challenge number 4, self-esteem and social comparison. This is a biggie. This is often the age when kids start comparing themselves to peers and struggle with self-esteem. Big deal. Remind them of their unique strengths and qualities and celebrate efforts over outcomes. I don't care if my kids got an A, B, C. I care that they tried. So the trying is the effort. The outcome is the grade. Less important. Effort's important. You might have a kid that gets an A but didn't try at all. We had one of those. Avoid comparing them to siblings or others and instead focus on helping them feel proud of their personal growth. So phrases like, I saw how hard you worked on that project. That is what matters most. Reinforce their self-worth. Emphasize that each person's journey is unique and encourage them to appreciate their own progress. So during this stage, we have a special opportunity to foster responsibility, independence, and kindness by giving them tasks they can manage, support their social skills, and provide clear guidance. Creating a home turf where they feel valued and capable. This foundation is going to help them grow into confident, resilient individuals. All right, so we're going to move on to the next stage, early adolescence, and this is a time of big changes, and we're going to talk about how to foster identity and resilience as they begin to explore who they are. Okay, now we're stepping into early adolescence, these pivotal years between 13 and 15. You know, people often joke about the terrible teens, and you've probably heard plenty of stories about how difficult this stage can be. And there's some truth to the fact that these years can bring challenges as kids test boundaries and explore who they are. But does it have to be that way? I don't think so. Not if we're prepared. Let me also say, let's pray for the parents of teens. So if you're just getting started on this journey, it's not too late to create a home environment that helps these years go by more smoothly. I've noticed that by the time kids reach this age, many parents are tempted to clamp down hard on rules and try to control every aspect of their teen's life. But that's not always the best approach. In fact, this is the age when it's better to give them some room to explore, as they're learning more about who they are and what they believe. The boundaries should have been set early on. I think of it as an inverted cone. People want to clamp down on those kids the older they get because the consequences are greater. And you actually want to do the opposite. You want to be clamping down when they're young, so they're used to being clamped down, and then you give them some freedom. How many stories have you heard? There's just so many stories of kids who are in this really controlling environment, and then they go off to college or they go off on their own, and then they're just like, they go nuts. And you really want them to do that while they're under your roof. And so you want to clamp down on them when they're young, when the consequences are small. So let's just talk about developmental goals here. During early adolescence, a major goal for us as parents is to support our kids' self-discovery. Help them develop emotional resilience. They're figuring out who they are, what they care about, and what values they want to stand by. It's a natural time for them to test limits and to make more independent decisions. Your job is to provide guidance and a strong foundation while giving them the room to grow and learn from their own experiences. This is also a stage where we want to encourage healthy risk-taking. Help them understand the importance of making wise choices. They're more exposed to social influences and peer pressure, so it's essential to build their confidence and teach them to navigate situations with integrity. And recognizing that in their own peer group. This is why those dinner time conversations are so important. In early adolescence, the brain is going to go through a lot of development, especially in areas related to emotion, in areas of risk-taking and self-identity. The prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain that helps with decision-making and impulse control, is still developing, which means teens may feel things intensely and act impulsively. They need guidance and patience as they learn to navigate these powerful feelings. This is why maintaining clear boundaries and open lines of communications is crucial. They're balancing this urge for independence with a genuine need for support and structure. So by creating a safe, respectful environment, we can help them make better choices and build resilience in the face of those challenges. So let me just walk you through some practical tips for creating home turf at this stage. A home turf that supports identity, exploration, encourages resilience, and provides a secure base. So here's a few ways. I'm going to line out 3. Teens need a safe space to express their ideas. You want to encourage open communications and active listening. So even when they challenge or question things, practice active listening. Ask open-ended questions and resist the urge to jump in with advice right away. Remember what I said. I'm hearing, I'm listening, I'm repeating back what my kids are saying, and then I asked, do you want my thoughts on this? And be prepared if the answer is no, because they're not going to be listening. So I throw it back. What do you think you want to do about it? How might that work? Well, what'll happen if you don't do anything? What happens if you take a stand? What are you leaning towards? What do you think the pros and cons are? So really digging in. Number 2, set clear expectations with room for independence. So as they're seeking more independence, give them chances to make decisions within safe limits. So let me give you a for instance. Let them choose their extracurricular activities or set personal goals. But be clear about the family's expectations around priorities, like school and respect for others. This allows them to practice independence while still feeling supported. I remember at this time, I think a lot of parents live vicariously through their kids' sporting activities and extracurricular activities. And we're wanting them to buckle down on this particular sport or wanting them to make it to the next level. And we've had kids that have done tremendously well in their sports and in those activities. And we've had those that didn't care much for it at all. But we were careful never to push them. And yeah, maybe that's what it takes to be a Tiger Woods. I don't know. To me, the relationship with my kids was more important than that. And so I remember one summer we actually pulled our kids out of sports. All the other parents were like, are you kidding me? They're never going to make it to the next select. You can't miss this. This is a crucial time. But the adventure that we went on as a family that summer, we all went to New Hampshire, they're going to remember that the rest of their lives. They don't remember the wins and losses in their various games. And it helped that my wife was a professional athlete whose parents never went to any of her events, because her view of the whole thing is there was nothing that is going to stop somebody that actually wants to succeed. And so that has to come from within your child. And it is up to you to help support them in the direction that they want to achieve in that, as opposed to being the overbearing, pushing parent. So hopefully that resonates a little bit. But let them be independent. Encourage positive peer relationships. So this is a time where friendships are huge. And we need to support those as being positive and being a house that's inviting for their friends to come over and encouraging involvement in activities that align with your family's values. So if it's sports, music, volunteering, whatever those are, when they're engaged in healthy interests, they're more likely to surround themselves with positive influences. The big question for us was the whole gaming thing. And I'm just a big believer in kids needing to be outdoors, but I get that gaming, is viewed as a sport. But we need to be outside as well. So that's just a personal thought. Typical challenges: questioning authority, testing boundaries. Teens are going to be pushing back against authority as they search for their own identity and self-control. They want to be in control. So how you think about defiance, instead of seeing their actions as defiance, view it as an opportunity to guide them. So clearly explaining again the reason behind our family rules, and be open to discussing their perspectives. Allowing respectful conversations, showing that you value their opinions, even if the rules remain firm. You might say, I hear what you're saying, and here's why we have this rule. This approach strengthens mutual respect. It helps them understand that rules are there for their benefit. I think the other big challenge at this age is going to be just how to navigate peer pressure. There's more exposure to social situations when you're a teen, and they're going to face pressure from peers to make choices that go against family values. So that's just not what Tobiases do. This is why the family identity and what your name means is so important. So teach them to anticipate situations. You want to say you're gonna find yourself being alone sometimes, and you have to be okay with that. In fact, there may be another kid in that group who needs someone else to lead because the whole group is going in the wrong direction. And there are others that feel the way you do. The problem is no one is a leader, and Tobiases are leaders. And so you may have to stand alone, but others will follow you. But someone's got to say no. Someone's got to say, I'm not going to do that. So you want to help them understand and anticipate situations where they might feel pressured, and practice these responses together. So you can say, like, if you ever feel uncomfortable, remember, you can always call me, no questions asked. And you can come up with a signal or a sign. It's like, I just got a text from my dad. We'll set that up ahead of time. I'm going to text my kid at 8:00 tonight and just say, how's it going? And they can use that opportunity to say, hey, I have to get home. No questions asked. I want my kids to understand that if you need to leave, I'm going to give you the freedom for me to not ask you a bunch of questions when you get home. That's trust. Encouraging them to think through these scenarios ahead of time builds confidence and helps them feel prepared. Another challenge, struggles with self-esteem, body image. Early teens can be especially sensitive to body image. This self-esteem issues, they go through physical changes. There's increased social comparison. People develop it more rapidly than other kids. Reinforce that they are valued for who they are, not how they look or what they achieve. Encourage them to pursue interests that make them feel accomplished and confident. Always praise the effort. Phrases like, I'm proud of the effort you put into this. Emphasizing growth and character over appearance. Helping them build a strong inner foundation. And finally, emotional ups and downs. Due to hormonal changes in brain development, teens are going to experience intense emotions and mood swings, sometimes without any clear reasons. Stay calm. Avoid overreacting to their moods. You can validate their feelings by saying something like, it sounds like you're having a tough day. Give them space to process emotions without judgment. It helps them feel secure. Encourage healthy outlets like journaling or exercise or hobbies. These are the things that help manage their emotions constructively. Let's go hit the weights. Let's go for a run. So these years can be challenging, but they're also a unique time of growth and self-discovery. By encouraging open communication, supporting their friendships and interests, and guiding them through the tough choices, you're going to be creating a home turf that's secure, yet it's adaptable, where they can safely explore who they are. They're going to make mistakes, as we all do, but having a strong foundation to come back to, they'll be better prepared to handle the ups and downs that come their way. All right, so let's move to the final stage, late adolescence. You're going to be amazed at how fast this comes. This is where we're going to be preparing our teams for greater independence and a transition to adulthood. Now, when our role as parents begins to shift, this is when it's happening, even more as we prepare our teens to transition towards greater independence and adulthood. This stage, they're likely making a lot of decisions on their own. They should be. And we want to help them build the skills to navigate life confidently. But we want to also make sure they're staying grounded in the values that we've taught them. And so this has just been a constant, keeping those simple things in front of them constantly. As for me and my house, we're going to serve the Lord. The Lord is the greatest good. Everything we work on is to try and be good, do good, and we look at everything as good, even when it's not going our way. That's an example of what I'm talking about. Where is the good in this? Seek and you will find. Knock and it shall be opened to you. So the primary development goal during these years is to equip your teen with the tools they need to make responsible choices on their own. This is a time for emphasizing self-discipline, personal accountability, and critical thinking, encouraging them to take more ownership of their decisions, and showing them what it means to live with integrity and responsibility, even when we're not there to guide them every step of the way. So I'm not saying this is the only way to do it. I'm not saying different families don't do things differently, but for our kids, we let them decide if they were going to college or not. And they needed to own that decision. When I was growing up, it was just assumed I was going to go to college. And I was thankful that I did, but I knew many people, because I knew where I knew I wanted to study computer science. That was already a done deal for me. It was obvious. In today's world, with so much online education, there are so many alternatives to going to college. I'm not sure it's right for everybody. So we've had kids that have gone to college, kids that have not gone to college, kids that got part way through college and decided to stop. They're all different. And so this is a decision we allowed them to make because they needed to own it. And if you're forcing your kids into college, well, and you're paying for it, it's like, what are they actually spending their time doing, and what sort of sacrifices are they making? You're making all the sacrifices financially, but are they making any? And to what end? So why do you want to go to college? I don't know. Well, then you might not be ready. Maybe community college. One thing's for certain, you're not going to sit home and do nothing. So you have to decide what you're going to do. There's a boundary, right? So it's a time to help them develop practical life skills that are going to serve them well beyond our home. Things that I don't think schools teach, like budgeting and time management, planning for the future. It's about preparing them for real world while giving them a strong foundation they can always come back to. So again, back to the college. Well, I know you want to go, this was a conversation we had. I know you want to go to A&M, but you're wanting to get a degree in early education, and you're going to stack up over $100,000 in debt. And I don't think school teachers want to carry that kind of debt. I just don't see how being a school teacher is going to get you there. So if that's what you want to do, then I would look for those schools that are less expensive, that can provide you that path so that when you're done, you don't have a mountain of school debt. And that's what my daughter did. And when she graduated, she had very little debt and was actually able to pay it off very quickly. And so no burden. But that was a decision that was made 4 years prior when she was at this age. So even in late adolescence, the brain is still developing, particularly that prefrontal cortex, that part of your brain which is responsible for decision making and impulse control and long-term planning. So you've got to lay these facts out, help lay them out for them, because they're still going to be prone to impulsive choices, especially in new situations, especially under peer pressure. So even though they're growing more independent, they still benefit from the structure and guidance as they build these crucial and critical skills. So at this stage, our role and your role is more like that of a coach or a mentor. You're there to offer advice. Again, we're freeing up that clamping down. Now we're just advisors, helping them think through their decisions and encourage them to consider the long-term impact of their choices, giving them room to make decisions within a framework of accountability. Help them develop confidence in their own judgment. And if you're removing those decisions for them, or you're forcing them into a certain pattern, you're not giving them the opportunity to even make the decision. So how do we support our late teens in gaining independence and skills they're going to need while still providing secure base? Well, here's some ways to create a home turf that fosters independence and confidence. So encourage real life responsibilities. Help them take on tasks that mimic real world experiences, like budgeting their allowances. So at this point, we jacked our allowances way up. But we didn't pay for anything. They had to pay for everything. They had to budget it. Managing their own schedules, planning their own activities. Don't ask us for money. You have allowance that allows you to decide whether you're going to buy clothes or you're going to go out to eat or whatever you're going to do. These tasks build their confidence and let them practice skills they're going to need in adulthood. Providing guidance, not control. At this stage, we need to shift from direct supervision to supportive guidance. If they come to you with a problem or a decision, instead of telling them what to do, ask questions to help them think it through. I know my kids would get frustrated. They're like, "You're not going to tell me." I'm like, no. It's your decision. What options have you considered? How do you think that choice might play out? This approach lets them take responsibility while knowing you're there for support. Model and encourage goal setting. So important that we have goals. Otherwise, we're just wandering through life aimlessly. Teens at this age, they're capable of setting and working towards their own goals. So what are they? Help them think that through. Encourage them to create both short-term and long-term goals. Whether they're related to academics or their career or personal development, help them break these goals down into actionable steps and then celebrate their progress with them, even if it's small. So let's walk through a few challenges. First is just navigating risky situations and peer influences. So they're going to face some risky social situations like parties, group activities, that kind of stuff. It's going to challenge their judgment. So my advice is remind them that it's okay to say no and to walk away if something feels wrong. That is their inner voice. That's the Holy Spirit. Emphasize that they can always call you for help, judgment-free, if they find themselves in a difficult situation. And just keep reinforcing they have a safety net with you. And that can help make a big difference in their confidence to handle tricky scenarios. I remember our daughter just going through a really rough time, just kept telling her mom, I hate you, I hate you, I hate you. And years later, she said, I was so mean to you, but I knew you loved me. And she was just expressing herself in the only way that she knew how, and that her mother was a safe place to say that. So recognize if your child is saying, I hate you, it means you've set a boundary. The boundary is not moving. She's not going to like that. They're not going to like that. That's just part of it. I get that you hate me. What she's really hating is not you. She's hating her situation. She's hating her circumstances. She's hating herself. She's hating her life. She's not hating you. She's saying she's hating you because she's learning to be independent. You got to help them balance freedom with responsibility. As they gain more independence, teens are going to struggle to balance freedom with accountability, especially when it comes to managing time or making commitments. Teach them how to prioritize by focusing on what's most important. If they're balancing school, a job, social activities, talk with them. Like, how are you going to structure your week and meet your responsibilities? Give them the tools like planners, digital calendars. Help them stay organized. Put the first things first. The big rocks. What are the big things that need to get done? But let them take charge of how they manage their time. It's actually their responsibility. Third challenge is decision-making and handling consequences. And I'll tell you, late teens are making bigger decisions that can have longer-term impacts. I mentioned college choices, career interests, job commitments. So encourage them to evaluate their own decisions by considering both the immediate and long-term consequences. So you might say, what are the pros and cons of each of these choices? How does this align with your goals? By teaching them to think critically and weigh outcomes, you're preparing them for decisions they're going to face in adulthood. And then finally, just preparing for transitions. Moving toward adulthood feels overwhelming, especially with big transitions like graduating high school or applying for college or entering the workforce. So my advice would be acknowledge that transitions are a challenge and that it's normal to feel uncertain. Like you don't know what's going to happen. Encourage them to break down big transitions into manageable steps and then celebrate the milestones along the way. Like, hey, you got through all your applications for college, or like hey, I think you're prepared for this job interview because we've rehearsed it. Remind them that growth often comes through discomfort, and you're there to support them through it. This is a powerful stage. It's a powerful time for fostering independence and self-reliance, giving them the space to make decisions, but also providing a framework of support and accountability. You're setting them up for success in the real world. And remember that they may be nearing adulthood, but they still need a strong foundation to come back to. And that's what home turf is all about. A place where they feel safe, where they feel valued and equipped to handle whatever life brings. So now, before we wrap up, there's one more key aspect to discuss when it comes to preparing our teens for independence. The more of building their confidence by letting them take ownership of their responsibilities. It's natural to want to help them however we can, whether that's buying a car, or paying for college, or stepping in to handle a problem. But sometimes, even well-meaning actions can have the unintended effect of stealing their confidence. So think about it like this. When you step in and provide everything, even with the best intentions, you're removing an opportunity for them to believe in their own abilities. They miss out on the pride that comes from working hard, reaching a goal. They miss out on knowing what they did, that they did it themselves. It was so hard when we couldn't afford to buy one of our kids a car. But then later, they bought their own car. And just their face lit up. To me, it was way more valuable for them to know they did this. It wasn't a gift. It was something they earned. So if we're always stepping in, they might even start to feel like they're not capable of handling things on their own. So give them the opportunity to save up and contribute. So maybe you help them buy the car, or I will co-sign on a loan. But this is your car, and you saved up enough for a down payment. So we can use my credit, but you're going to make the payments. They can work part-time. They can budget their earnings. They can see what they're capable of achieving. And achieving a goal with their own effort, that builds them up so much. Or when it comes to college, rather than covering every expense, encouraging them to take an active role in finding scholarships, applying for grants, budgeting their finances. These experiences don't just build financial awareness. They also instill pride, resilience, and self-belief. I was talking to a parent the other day, and he was telling me how proud he was that he was able to pay for all of his kids through college. And I think it's great if you can do that. But I was thinking to myself, I'm actually more proud of my children for doing that on their own. And I think that's true. I'm proud of them. I think the person that was sharing that with me, and I think they were well intended, but I think they were saying they were proud of themselves for being able to do that for their kids. And this is what I mean about stealing the pride for yourself that could otherwise be your children's. So I know this isn't about doing things one specific way. I just wanted to give you a different way to think about things. Some parents may choose to help financially, and that's perfectly fine. It's about a balance, whatever that is. The key is to remember that whatever you choose, you want to support their growth and confidence rather than unintentionally holding them back. You don't want children that are victims. You want them that are more than conquerors. That I believe in you. You can do this. You're aiming to empower them, to help them believe, I can do this. I have what it takes to succeed. Ultimately, these small experiences of responsibility and accomplishment, They add up to a strong sense of independence. So as parents, we're not just giving them a handout. We're equipping them with the mindset that with hard work and determination, you can handle life's challenges on your own. That's a powerful gift, one that's going to serve them well long after they left our home turf. So, some food for thought. As we come to the end of this episode, let's take a moment to look back at the journey we've taken through each stage of building home turf. We've covered the importance of all the nurturing a secure foundation from infancy all the way to preparing our young adults for independence. Through each phase, we're helping our kids develop the character, the resilience, the confidence they need to step out into the world on their own terms. So let's do a quick recap. In infancy, it's all about security and attachment. We're building trust through consistent nurturing care, creating a sense of safety that lays the foundation for their emotional stability. During early childhood, you start encouraging independence and social skills within a safe framework, giving them a structure that helps them feel confident and valued. In middle childhood, you focus on responsibility and building social awareness, teaching them how to contribute, how to handle boundaries, and how to navigate friendships. And as early adolescence brings more independence and identity exploration, and your role becomes one of guiding them as they begin to make more of their own choices. And finally, in late adolescence, you're preparing them for adulthood, giving them space to take on responsibilities and encouraging self-reliance. You're still providing a strong supportive foundation. Throughout each of these stages, home turf is where we're building a family environment that's secure, that's loving, and aligned with our deepest values. It's where planting seeds is your responsibility. You're planting seeds of faith, planting seeds of character, planting seeds of resilience that are going to continue to grow with them through life. Now, I know this may feel like a lot to take on, especially if you're juggling multiple ages and stages in your family. And with a lot of kids, we give the older kids responsibility for some of the younger kids to help out. But remember, building home turf isn't about doing it all perfectly. It's about showing up. It's about being intentional. And it's about making small everyday choices that add up over time. And one of my favorite reminders from Proverbs, train up a child in the way he should go, and when he is old, he will not depart from it. Each of these stages is part of that training. A chance to pour love, to pour wisdom and guidance into your kids' lives. And as you do, you're giving them something they can carry with them for the rest of their lives. A sense of home that's grounded in love and purpose and faith. So thanks for joining me today on Dad Mode, God, Grit, and Goals. And I hope this series on home turf has given you some tools, encouragement, and perspective to create a home that truly supports your family's growth. And in our next episode, we're going to dive into the service scope filter of Family Compass, where we're going to discuss how to prioritize activities and commitments that align with your family's values and purpose. We're going to be talking about what to say yes to, excuse me, and maybe more importantly, what to say no to, so you can keep your family focused on what truly matters. And until then, keep focusing on what's most important, and remember that every small intentional choice you make contributes to a home where each family member can thrive. I'll see you next time. And remember our 4 core truths. God is good. Jesus has forgiven me. I am loved, and everything is possible. Have a great day.